I just don't think that's worth it.
Alright, y'all, give me 11 minutes. This show's so good. You guys haven't seen it.
I'm sorry.
What is this called? Not Dead Yet.
Let me tell you a little story. When I was in closure.
By the way, we're working through this shelf right here.
Yes, you are.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Ashlyn here. So we are back for another Read or DNF. We have that, like I pointed earlier, that shelf up there, whatever it is, up. Yeah, we have that to go through, and it's literally front and back. So, like, there's books in front of books that are in the back. It's a whole mess, I know. But if you see this pretty little stack right here, right there, yep, right there. Right there. I'm learning all these directions. That is our keep pile. So you guys know, so far, we are keeping some books. We have read quite a few books. We got rid of about 5 or 6 books, 7 books maybe now, which is pretty good considering I am a bookaholic. But you know, if the first chapter and the second chapter doesn't get your attention, it's gotta go because there's gotta be a store. Just saying. Anyway, this one is gonna be super long. I apologize, guys. I'm going to try and break this down, but it is literally 40 pages for the first chapter. I don't know what Mary O'Connell was thinking, but this is Dear Reader by Mary O'Connell. If you saw my last video, I was going to start this, and then I saw that it was 40 pages, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're already like 40-something minutes in, so I could not do it. So we're going to go ahead and do this. I need to get a drink really quick, and then I will be right back. Oh, and really quick, I'm going to do something like really ballsy here. I am going to comment on a couple of my favorite booktubers and see if they will check out my small little booktube channel and maybe give me some pointers because your girl needs some help sometimes. I don't have like a fancy camera or a big setup or anything like that. I try and do mainly book content. However, I do like entertainment and reaction videos and things like that. And if you are interested in giving me some pointers, I would really appreciate it as well. You don't have to subscribe if you don't want to. I totally get it. I mean, I bore myself sometimes, I'm not gonna lie. And booktube is just not for everybody, so I understand that as well. However, I do want to try and broaden my horizons and at least get to 1,000 subscribers. I'm at like 800 something, so that's pretty good, right? For a start, at least. I mean, I've been doing this for a couple years, but it takes time, and I don't promote my page anywhere, honestly. It was on my Instagram. I got rid of Instagram, though, so I don't have Instagram anymore, so don't try and reach me on Instagram. And I think I still have my Snapchat up, but I'm not 100% sure. And then you can find me on Facebook. So there's that. And then I also have a Goodreads, and I think I posted that as well. I'm not 100% sure. But I've been using Goodreads. I also use something called Book Siren, which is where you can actually get like ebooks sent to your phone into your Kindle app. And it's like new releases, like before they're even released and things like that. So you can actually do a review for them, but you get to read them firsthand, which I thought was so cool. So, but I also do, I don't remember the other one. I'm totally spacing. I apologize. But let's go ahead and get into this because it's going to take a minute. And then we got 3 more I pulled off. And yes, they're all dark. I mean, they're not like dark stories. They're just like dark books. They might be dark. That one's sexual. That's a Riley Sager. And this is a Michelle Hodgkin. Maybe they're dark. I don't know. We'll find out. Get ready. Alright, Dear Reader by Mary O'Connell. Let's just get started, I guess. If you watched the last If you watched the last video, I did the synopsis already. I'm not going to reread the synopsis. So let's just get into it because we have 40 pages to get to. I'm going to get a little comfy here. All right. Miss Sweeney disappeared on the first day of March, and Icy Thursday morning of gloves and boots and veneers of diamondy frost on the windows of Sacred Heart High School. Her classroom was not bathed in the stark yellow glow of school-issued light bulbs. The only light came from the windows, and it was morning, soft gray, and gave the classroom a surprising bedroom coziness. When Flannery Fields walked into the room, she took the start of this Thursday as a gift. Yesterday she had been mocked for her enthusiasm about Wuthering Heights, but she remained eager to defend her favorite novel. Still, what could trump a free hour? Did anyone want to flip the light switch and start a new school day? There were already a few girls sitting at their desks playing games on their phones or listening to music or texting or spacing out entirely. Somebody greeted the dim teacher-free room with an exuberant "sweet," and somebody else snickered before complete quiet descended. It was as if all the girls had taken an implicit vow of silence. They didn't want to draw the attention of a random teacher roaming the halls during her planning period. Flannery put in her earbuds but didn't turn on her music. She cocooned herself in the filtered silence and wondered when Miss Sweeney would show up. But soon the peaceful scene was shattered by the calculus teacher's voice droning up through the heat vents. Flannery dug her book from her backpack, figuring she'd better study for her third-hour test. But she heard a few giggling snorts from the girls who sat behind her, a friendly reminder that only a geek of Flannery's towering stature would be studying when one was basically free to do anything at all. And so Flannery gave in to the strange languor of the morning and played Boggle on her phone until it vibrated. It was Megan Swenson Sains texting her from the next desk. This is awkward. Also great. Where do you think she is? Flannery looked out the window at the teacher's parking lot, thinking that she might see Miss Sweeney frantically getting out of her car and running into Sacred Heart High. Maybe she's sleeping in. She texted a smiley face emoji and a series of Z's after that, as if Miss Sweeney were not merely sleeping in, but had morphed into a dozy, cheerful cartoon character. Most teachers arrived at school by 7:30, but occasionally Miss Sweeney raced in from the teacher's parking lot at 5 till 8, with her green eyes looking smaller and sleepier without their usual plum liner and fringe of mascara, and her long, light brown hair not flat iron smooth, but wavy and wet at the tips. It didn't occur to Flannery that anything was truly wrong. Her intuition failed, perhaps by drowsy inertia. But 8 o'clock became 8:15 and then 8:20, and Flannery started to worry. Miss Sweeney's behavior in class yesterday had been beyond erratic, but maybe she was just sick. Miss Sweeney had been out for a few days in February's strep throat and had returned to the substitute teacher's stained coffee cup on her desk. Really? She'd said, holding the coffee cup away from her body, her arm locked straight. She looped her finger and thumb gingerly around the handle as if holding a tarantula by the leg. A cough drop clacked against Miss Sweeney's teeth when she sighed. Really and truly? The mug was painted tart apple green with black lettering, "Kiss me, I'm Irish." Flannery wasn't sure if Miss Sweeney was referring to the general piggishness of the substitute, a pleasant old man in taped glasses and a linty black sweater vest who wanted to go off syllabus and off planet and discuss random scenes from the Martian Chronicles, or if her AP English teacher was offended by the corn dog leprechaun sentiment. At 8:30, Megan Swenson Sains pulled her headphones off and walked to the front of the classroom. She stood in front of Miss Sweeney's desk and waved her hands over her head, largely ironically, as if she were landing planes, until everyone stared at her. "Does anyone know where Miss Sweeney lives? Should I drive to her house?" She spoke with the officious confidence of a student council president, which she was, and had to endure exaggerated sighs from the popular girls. But Flannery could sense a growing worry, the mood in the room changing atmospherically. Flannery was pretty sure that if she wrote that phrase in an essay, Miss Sweeney would circle it in red pen and write in the margin, "How does the mood change atmospherically? Does the mood coyly sprinkle a few raindrops before said mood swings and burns you with a noonday sun?" She could be a little snarky like that. She was a detailed, precise grader. On days Miss Sweeney handed back their essays, most girls glowered and muttered until the bell rang and they were free to flip through their pages and openly complain in the hall. What's with her hatred of extraneous adjectives? Why does she get so bent out of shape by cliches? She probably gets her panties in such a twist because Miss Sweeney herself is a cliche. The teacher who thinks she's so special, so different from the other teachers. And how pathetic is her obsessive love for meaning, sense, and clarity. Meaning, sense, and clarity were the guiding principles upon which Miss Sweeney judged student writing. Because Flannery's first impulse was to make her sentences obliquely profound and or jazzy, she was certainly not immune to Miss Sweeney's sharp red pen. but Flannery loved getting her essays back from Miss Sweeney. Not that her comments didn't sometimes sting, they did. But Flannery appreciated the time and effort Miss Sweeney put into grading. Last year's lit teacher had just crossed out a few typos or at most wrote a quick perfunctory, nice simile, or cool adjective comment on her students' essays. She had 4 children in elementary school and drank coffee from a squat, rocket-shaped mug that said fuel. And Miss Sweeney had written Flannery an encouraging note on the first essay she turned in back in September. F. I hope you are not discouraged by my many suggestions. I am only trying to help you take a closer look at your writing. You are talented, observant, and empathetic. I do think you could be a writer. Flannery kept the paper buried in her socks and underwear drawer. When she was having a bad day, she would dig it out and read that last sentence over and over. Now Megan wagged her finger at the clock. Seriously, Miss Sweeney should so be here by now. If now was 30 minutes ago. The meanest of the mean girls reign in, lightening things up. Sweeney's probably gone completely Sylvia Plath on us, and now we'll get stuck with another moronic stud for the rest of the year. The nervous laughter of her half-dozen acolytes even sounded like the bleating of sheep. Flannery didn't have time to mull over their vapid cruelty because there was the thudding of slow footfalls in the hall, not the skittering click-clack of high-heeled boots that would belong to Miss Sweeney. Had she been running to her classroom, her adrenaline jackrabbing ever since that heart-stopping moment she'd opened her eyes and looked at the alarm clock. Flannery imagined Miss Sweeney jolting out of bed and screeching, "It's after 8! Students are walking into my classroom and I am still in my bed!" June arrived, tartan, bright and petite and smelling of lily of the valley. Miss Picone, the freshman English teacher. She stepped into the classroom like a polite, curious neighbor, but her smile slackened as she stood there in the soft light in her pink kilt and red turtleneck. It had been 3 years since Flannery had heard Miss Picone recite the Robert Burns poem, To a Mouse, but the memory remained cringily fresh. Miss Picone was from Atlanta, but her soft southern accent had disappeared into a sudden and aggressive Scottish burr, and she'd run her hands and made eye contact with each girl in the class, one by one, each and every wee mousie, as she tortured out the lines. Normally, Flannery would empathize with anyone who had given an impromptu and brave, if poorly considered, reading, but poetry-loving Miss Picone sucked up to the smirking popular girls, which anyone could see was futile. Now Miss Picone squinted hard at Miss Sweeney's desk, at the pale green tissue billowing up out of a Kleenex box patterned with gold and green falling leaves. Everyone waited for Miss Picone to speak, but her eyes stayed locked on the Kleenex box, as if she were mining for autumnal metaphor, for symbolic meaning. But Flannery had seen the fall-themed tissues in the red-stickered sale aisle at Target. Miss Sweeney's box of Kleenex was really just a box of Kleenex. Miss Picone finally turned to the class and said, "What, pray tell, is going on in here?" Silence. No one wanted Miss Sweeney to get in any trouble, plus nobody knew what was going on, and so Miss Picone crossed her arms over her chest and smiled triumphantly, as if she had just stumbled upon a secret bunker of party girls swirling around the room in sparkly disco dresses, not a class of morning days girls sitting quietly at their desks. She hustled off to the office and returned with the principal, who walked into the room flushed, his commanding forehead glazed with sweat. His eyes were the eerie ice blue of martyred Scandinavians, and he was skinny and nearly 7 feet tall. To compensate for his serial killer ambience, he was always aggressively cheery. He cleared his throat dramatically. "Morning, ladies." The principal flung out his lanky arms, a weird air embrace for the class. He occasionally appeared in local commercials for car dealers or real estate firms, and in fact had directed the Sacred Heart Fall musical, an all-girl, of course, version of Oklahoma. But fearing blowback from the conservative Sacred Heart parents, he'd taken a little artistic license with the key romantic scene. Instead of kissing Will, Emily Wolfe, and Annie, Alyssa Lockhart, had exchanged exuberant smiles and the heartiest hand-steadied high five. "Cold one today, right?" He fake shivered and gave himself a little hug. "I rolled out of bed this morning and told my wife, time to salt the sidewalks, honey." Flannery dearly wished he hadn't used wife and bed in the same sentence, let alone a phrase overripe with euphemism. From the back of the class, some valiant girl whispered, saying, "Chicka-bow-bow." The principal, who was never called Mr. Miller, he was solely referred to as the principal, as he was both a prince and a pal, ignored the not quite suppressed laughter and asked if Miss Sweeney had been in the classroom that morning. The head-shaking chorus of no, 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 no made his shoulders slump. He clucked out a series of annoyed tongue sounds. and fussed with his broadly striped necktie before he rallied with a pleasant, "So, you haven't seen her?" "So you haven't seen her?" The principal's verbal style certainly lacked meaning, sense, and clarity, but so did everything else that had happened that morning. He floundered on with small talk. The magazine sales fundraiser had been a laudable success, and he was looking forward to Friday's volleyball tournament. He just loved volleyball. He loved seeing everybody having a blast on the court. Flannery blanched at his next sentence, knowing that his words would linger forever, knowing that even when she was a 90-year-old draped in a pink afghan, clutching prayer cards and trying to discern the terrifying mystery of the afterlife, she would still remember the principal saying, "Holy Toledo, ladies, I love to see those balls really get spiked." Still, Flannery felt sorry for him because everything he said was so stupid and so hilarious, but mostly because his gaze kept straying to the windows as if willing Miss Sweeney to appear. But everyone was a little off their game by that point, and not a single girl snickered or texted a hastily composed sonnet entitled "The Prince and the Pal of the Double Entendre, Ode to his Spiked Balls." The bell rang, and the principal looked as startled as if he'd heard the fire alarm, and that was the end of the awkward fuss. I don't know what's going on. He took a deep breath and, as if absolutely determined to try to impose normalcy, offered up his trademark chase ball grin. "Move on to the second hour, ladies. Orchestra and band. I want to hear some beautiful music ringing through the hallways." But a hairline fraction of annoyance cracked his buoyant voice. A teacher not showing up for school was not going to make his day any easier. "You can turn in any homework tomorrow when Miss Sweeney returns." Flannery had Zippo musical talent and took a second hour study hall, so she loitered. Loading her backpack with precision, she wound her earbud cords into a neat bundle like thin licorice and pulled the pens and pencils from the dark cavity of her backpack and rearranged them in the outer zipper pouch. She wanted to be the last person left in the room, and when she was, Flannery took a careful look around. Everything appeared unchanged. The framed black and white photographs of Miss Sweeney's favorite writers lined the walls: Sylvia Plath and Langston Hughes and Emily and Charlotte Bronte, and J.D. Salinger and Flannery O'Connor and Ian Frank stared down at her, along with Jesus, who convalesced on a small metal crucifix by the door. Miss Sweeney was a big fan of the Christ figure in literature, but Flannery couldn't quite decipher how she felt about Jesus himself, savior or mere quotable and compelling biblical character. From the hall came the excited speculation about her whereabouts. Sweeney had slept in, and the chattering energy of Miss Sweeney's absence crashed onto Flannery like a wave. Even as she thought that, the critical portion of her gray brain mass simultaneously noted how Miss Sweeney would not care for the wave description. And so Miss Sweeney's imagined words scrolled through Flannery's brain in vivid red ink. "Flannery, can you think of a less pedestrian description for your sudden despair? Perhaps something non-oceanic?" "Okay, Flannery." As if she were contrasting Flannery's embarrassing literary name with her embarrassingly non-lofty efforts. But the wave crashed anyway. The creamy gray-green water roared like a lion. Flannery knew that Miss Sweeney had not overslept, that she was not enjoying some midweek carpe diem, eating scrambled eggs and cinnamon toast with a foxy new boyfriend. Flannery knew something was really wrong, and she had the accompanying queasy feeling that it was a wrong that might not be easily fixed. She picked up her backpack and paused, staring at the green board. She hoped for some kind of Hogwarts magic for Miss Sweeney's whereabouts to be written on the board by an invisible hand skilled in calligraphy, for an exact location to be spelled out in an ominous, jagged font. Flannery cut behind Miss Sweeney's desk, which felt like a social violation, traipsing through the kitchen area of a restaurant or using the upstairs bathroom of a house when the party was happening in the basement. She rested her hand on the back of Miss Sweeney's chair for a quick moment, and then, as if unbidden, her hand reached to open the top desk drawer. But before she touched the metal handle, she noticed a quarter-inch strap of red leather sticking out of the bottom drawer. Flannery jerked back as if it were a swaying coral snake, and then looked at the door before she casually pulled open the drawer as if in search of scotch tape or a manila folder. Flannery offered up an aggrieved sigh to the empty room. "I am so busy," acting as if rooting through a teacher's desk was just one of a multitude of thankless, monotonous tasks she had to perform before day turned to night and she could pull on her comfiest sweatpants and watch Downton Abbey with a big old glass of Chardonnay. In short, Flannery acted like one of the teachers. She had studied their tedious delights, along with their whimsical, flattering selfies, via their Facebook updates until the Archdiocese had ruled that students and teachers could not correspond via social networks. Flannery did not particularly miss the sad subtext of adults curating their online lives in any way. The one teacher she was interested in had never friended a student. At Sacred Heart High, Miss Sweeney was a stoic Beyonce in the frothy Kardashian sea. Wow, this book's so weird. Flannery took Miss Sweeney's purse out of the drawer, slung it over her own shoulder, and walked briskly into the hallway as if pursuing important errands. The loudspeaker crackled, and the principal's amplified breathing, a fine bouquet of hay fever and mucus, filled the hallway. She flinched but did not hear. Flannery Fields, do not steal Miss Sweeney's purse. With the cheery cadence of a sports announcer, the principal said, "Attention, please. Students in Miss Sweeney's second-hour English Lit class, please report to the gym." A few stragglers lingered, covertly texting by their lockers, but by the time Flannery had cut into the bathroom, there was just one other person in the stall, a lone pair of black Converses showing beneath the partition wall. Flannery took the farthest stall and stood waiting, hugging Miss Sweeney's purse to her chest. When the girl finally flushed and exited her stall, she primped at the mirror for an eternity, but never bothered to wash her hands. Ew. Normally, Flannery would have peered through the crack in the door to see the guilty girl. She would have made a mental note to keep an eye on her in the lunch line, as she was undoubtedly one who would bypass the tongs and plunge her fecalicious hand into the communal bread basket. Finally, there came the swoosh, swoosh of the bathroom door sweeping open and shut, and Flannery took a seat on the closed toilet and unzipped Miss Sweeney's purse. The contents made her heart sink. Of course, she imagined Miss Sweeney standing on the toilet seat of the next stall, her hands gripping the partition wall, her face a perfect smirk as she looked down at Flannery. "Did your heart really sink? Are you in possession of a sunken heart? Sunken as in treasure or ships? Ahoy there, matey." But Flannery really could feel the heart sinking through her chest cavity, because everything in that purse was useful. She believed there was not a single item Miss Sweeney would willingly leave behind. An asthma inhaler, her keys, 4 of them, on a cheap touristy Lady Liberty keyring, 3 tampons, Styla eyeliner in morning plum, her cell phone, Crest white strips, concealer, her paperback edition of Wuthering Heights, an older edition with a pulpy harlequin-looking cover. The pages were stiff and ruffled at the edges as if it had been dropped into the bathtub. And it's possible with a lit teacher at that. Her wallet containing a 10 and 4 ones, a Liberty card, her driver's license, her insurance card, a blurred photo of, was it a rat with a fluffy pink wig, and her frequent customer punch card at Java Joe's. Flannery ran her fingers over the fragmented paper and counted out the punches. Miss Sweeney was 2 espresso drinks away from a free beverage of her choice. Flannery wasted a long moment in the bathroom, oddly comforted by the smell of Clorox and the incessant swirl of the running toilet, wondering if Miss Sweeney would choose a standard latte or beat the system with a 4-shot caramel Freebird, which, with tip, was usually $7. She was putting the wallet back into the purse when she thought to unzip the change compartment. It had felt flat, empty, but contained a folded-up piece of paper. Oh. LCPL, Brandon J. Marzetti, Corcoran, Kansas City, Missouri, was killed in action in the Helmand province of Afghanistan on Sunday, March 11th. Born in Kansas City, he graduated from Holy Angels High School in May 2005 and entered the Marines on November 19, 2005. He was devoted and loyal to a fault to family and friends. An accomplished athlete, Brandon was the starting quarterback for the Holy Angels 2004-2005 championship team. He was an avid sports fan, devoted to the Kansas City Chiefs and Kansas City Royals. He is survived by his loving parents, Lisa Marzetti, Lizelle Charles, and Ray Corcoran, his fiancée Megan Reynolds, and grandmother Helen Marzetti. He is also survived by his future in-laws, Suzanne and Philip Reynolds, and many friends all over the world. Mass of Christian burial will be at 10 a.m. Thursday morning at St. Thomas More Catholic Church. Burial with full military honors will follow at Oak Hill Cemetery. A rosary will be said at 6:30 p.m. Wednesday evening, and family will receive friends until 9 o'clock. In lieu of flowers, the family suggests memorials to the Holy Angels Athletic Department in care of Holy Angels High School. Okay. So I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want to give away too much information. So, there's a teacher missing. There's somebody's obituary in her wallet, like her coin purse. And, all the contents in her bag that were left for some reason. So, definitely a keep. Just the pages kind of irritate me. They're deckled edges, if you can't tell. See how they look like they're like all beat up and everything? It's deckled edges. Alright, next we have Final Girls by Riley Sager. This book has been on my radar. And when I say it's been on my radar, I mean this book has literally been on my radar. I look at it every time I look at my shelves because it's right there in the front, on the front row. I'm currently working on a Riley Sager book now, Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, which is pretty good. I think I'm like 12 chapters in, maybe. I can't remember. I put it down a couple months ago just because I wanted to try and get other things out of the way. So, but we're going to go ahead and read this. It says 10 years ago, college student Quincy Carpenter went on vacation with 5 friends and returned alone. In an instant, she became a member of a club no one wants to belong to, a group of similar survivors known in the press as the Final Girls. Lisa, who lost 9 sorority sisters to a college dropout's knife, Sam, who went up against the sack man during her shift at the Nightlight Inn, and now Quincy, who ran bleeding through the woods to escape him. Despite the media's attempts, they never meet. Now Quincy is doing well, maybe even great, thanks to her Xanax prescription. She has a caring, almost fiancé, Jeff, and a therapeutic presence in Coop, the police officer who saved her life all those years ago. Her memory won't even allow her to recall the events of that night. The past is in the past. That is until Lisa is found dead in her bathtub, wrist slit, and Sam appears on Quincy's doorstep, intent on making Quincy relive the past. And when new details about Lisa's death come to light, Quincy's life becomes a race against time as she tries to unravel Sam's truths from her lies and remember what really happened at Pine Cottage before what was started 10 years ago is finished. If you like Gone Girl, you'll like this, is what Stephen King blurbed. So, this is from 2017. I have a lot of 2017 books, I noticed. Okay, Pine Cottage, 1 a.m. The forest had claws and teeth. All those rocks and thorns and branches bit at Quincy as she ran screaming through the woods, but she didn't stop. Not when rocks dug into the soles of her bare feet, not when a whip-thin branch lashed her face in a line of blood streaked down her cheek. Stopping wasn't an option. To stop was to die, so she kept running, even as the bramble wrapped around her ankle and gnawed at her flesh. The bramble stretched, quivering, before Quincy's momentum yanked her free. If it hurt, she couldn't tell. Her body already held more pain than it could handle. It was instinct that made her run, an unconscious knowledge that she needed to keep going no matter what. Already she had forgotten why. Memories of 5, 10, 15 minutes ago were gone. If her life depended on remembering what prompted her flight through the woods, she was certain she'd die right there on the forest floor. So she ran, she screamed, she tried not to think about dying. A white glow appeared in the distance, faint along the tree-choked horizon. Headlights. Was she near a road? Quincy hoped she was. Like her memories, all sense of direction was lost. She ran faster, increased her screams, raced toward the light. Another branch whacked her face. It was thicker than the first, like a rolling pin, and the impact both stunned and blinded her. Pain pulsed through her head as blue sparks throbbed across her blurred vision. When they cleared, she saw a silhouette standing out in the headlights' glow. A man. Him. No, not him. Someone else. Safety. Quincy quickened her pace. Her blood-drenched arms reached out as if that could somehow pull the stranger closer. The movement caused the pain in her shoulder to flare, and with the pain came not a memory but an understanding. One so brutally awful that it had to be real. Only Quincy remained. All the others were dead. She was the last one left alive. Alright. I'm going to just really quickly here see how many pages it looks like this chapter is. Hopefully it's not as long as 40 pages. Okay, it's not. It's a few pages, but it's just about as many as I just read. So, there's that. Chapter 1. My hands are covered in frosting when Jeff calls. Despite my best efforts, the French buttercream has oozed onto my knuckles and into the hammocks between my fingers, sticking there like paste. Only one pinky finger remains unscathed, and I use it to tap the speakerphone button. Carpenter and Richards, private investigators, I say, imitating the breathy voice of a film noir secretary. How may I direct your call? Jeff plays along, his tough guy tone pitched somewhere between Robert Mitchum and Dana Andrews. Put Miss Carpenter on the horn. I need to talk to her pronto. Miss Carpenter is busy with an important case. May I take a message? Yeah, tell her my flight from Chi-Town has been delayed. My facade drops. Oh, Jeff, really? Sorry, hun. The perils of flying out of the Windy City. How long is the delay? Anywhere from 2 hours to maybe I'll be home by next week. I'm at least hoping it's long enough for me to miss the start of baking season. No such luck, pal. How's it going, by the way? I look down at my hands. Messy. Baking season is just named for the exhausting stretch between early October and late December when all those dessert-heavy holidays arrive without reprieve. He likes to say it ominously, raising his hands and wiggling his fingers like spider legs. Ironically, it's a spider that's caused my hands to be coated in buttercream, made of double dark chocolate frosting. Its stomach teeters on the edge of a cupcake while black legs stretch across the top and down the sides. When I'm finished, the cupcakes will be posed, photographed, and displayed on my website's roster of Halloween baking ideas. This year's theme is Revenge of the Yummy. How's the airport? Crowded, but I think I'll survive by hitting the terminal bar. Call me if the delay gets any worse. I'll be here, covered in icing. Bake like the wind. Call over. It's back to the buttercream spider and the chocolate cherry cupcake and partly covers. If I've done it right, the red center should ooze out at first bite. That test will come later. Right now, my chief concern is the outside. Decorating cupcakes is harder than it seems, especially when the results will be posted online for thousands to see. Smudges and smears aren't allowed. In a high-def world, flaws loom large. Details matter. That's one of the 10 commandments on my website, squeeze between measuring cups are your friends and don't be afraid to fail. I finished the first cupcake and I'm working on the second when my phone rings again. This time there's not even a clean pinky finger at my disposal and I'm forced to ignore it. The phone continues to buzz while shimmying across the countertop. It then goes silent, pausing a moment before emitting a telltale beep. A text. Curious, I drop the icing bag, wipe my hands, and check the phone. It's from Coop. We need to talk face to face. My fingers pause above the screen. Although it takes Coop 3 hours to drive into Manhattan, it's a trip he's willingly made many times in the past. When it's important, I text back. When? His reply arrives in seconds. Now, usual place. A spot of worry presses the base of my spine. Coop is already here, which means only one thing. Something is wrong. Before leaving, I rushed through my usual preparations for a meeting with Coop. Teeth brushed, lips glossed, tiny Xanax popped. I washed a little blue pill down with some grape soda drunk straight from the bottle. In the elevator, it occurs to me that I should have changed clothes. I'm still in my baking wear, black jeans, one of Jeff's old button-downs, and red flats. All bear flecks of flour and faded splotches of food coloring. I notice a scrape of dried frosting on the back of my hand. Skin peeking through the blue-black smear. It resembles a bruise. I lick it off. Outside on 82nd Street, I make a right onto Columbus, already packed with pedestrians. My body tightens at the sight of so many strangers. I stop and shove stiff fingers into my purse, searching for the can of pepper spray, always kept there. There's safety in numbers, yes, but also uncertainty. It's only after finding the pepper spray that I start walking again, my face puckered into a don't bother me scowl. Although the sun is out, a tangible chill stains the air, typical for early October in New York when the weather seems to randomly veer between hot and cold. Yet fall is definitely making a swift approach. When Theodore Roosevelt Park comes into view, the leaves there are poised between green and gold. Through the foliage, I can see the back of the American Museum of Natural History, which on this morning is swarmed with school kids. Their voices flit like birds among the trees. When one of them shrieks, the rest go silent just for a second. I freeze on the sidewalk, unnerved not by the shriek, but by the silence that follows. But then the children's voices start up again, and I calm down. I resume walking, heading to a cafe 2 blocks south of the museum, our usual place. Coop is waiting for me at a table by the window, looking the same as always, that sharp, craggy face that appears pensive in times of repose, such as now, a body that's both long and thick, large hands, one of which bears a ruby class ring, instead of a wedding band. The only change is his hair, which he keeps trimmed close to the scalp. Each meeting always brings a few more flecks of gray. His presence in the cafe is noticed by all the nannies and caffeinated hipsters who crowd the place. Nothing like a cop in full uniform to put people on edge. Even without it, Coop cuts an intimidating figure. He's a big man, consisting of rolling hills of muscle. The starch blue shirt and black trousers with the knife-edge creases only amplify his size. He lifts his head as I enter, and I notice the exhaustion in his eyes. He must have driven here directly from working the third shift. 2 mugs are already on the table, Earl Grey with milk and extra sugar for me, coffee for Coop, black, unsweetened. Quincy, he says, nodding. There's always a nod. It's Coop's version of a handshake. We never hug, not since the desperate one I gave him the night we first met. No matter how many times I see him, that moment is always there, playing on a loop until I pushed it away. They're dead, I had choked out while clutching him, the words gurgling thickly in the back of my throat. They're all dead, and he's still out here. 10 seconds later, he saved my life. This is certainly a surprise, I say as I take a seat. There's a tremor in my voice that I try to tamp down. I don't know why Coop's called me, but if it's bad news, I want to be calm when I hear it. You're looking well, Coop says while giving me the quick, concerned once-over I'm now accustomed to, but you've lost some weight. There's worry in his voice, too. He's thinking about 6 months after Pine Cottage, when my appetite had left me so completely that I ended up back in the hospital, force-fed through a tube. I remember waking to find Coop standing by my bed, staring at the plastic hose slithered up my nostril. Don't disappoint me, Quincy, he said then. You didn't survive that night just to die like this. It's nothing. I finally learned I don't have to eat everything I bake. And how's that going? The baking thing. Great, actually. I gained 5,000 followers last quarter and got another corporate advertiser. That's great. Glad everything is going well. One of these days you should actually bake something for me. Like the nod, this is another of Coop's constants. He always says it, never means it. How's Jefferson? He asks. He's good. The public defender's office just made him the lead attorney on a big, juicy case. I leave out how the case involves a man accused of killing a narcotics detective in a bus gone wrong. Coop already looks down on Jeff's job. There's no need to toss more fuel onto that particular fire. Good for him. He's been gone the past 2 days, had to fly to Chicago to get statements from family members. Says it'll make a jury more sympathetic. I guess he hasn't proposed yet. I shake my head. I told Coop I thought Jeff was going to propose on our August vacation to the Outer Banks, but no rain so far. That's the real reason I've recently lost weight. I've become the kind of girlfriend who takes up jogging just to fit into a hypothetical wedding dress. Still waiting. It'll happen. And what about you? I ask, only half teasing. Have you finally found a girlfriend? Nope. I arch a brow. A boyfriend? This visit is about you, Quincy, Coop says, not even cracking a smile. Of course. You ask, I answer. That's how things go between us when we meet once, twice, maybe 3 times a year. More often than not, the visits resemble therapy sessions, with me never getting a chance to ask Coop questions of my own. I'm only privy to the basics of his life. He's 41, spent time in the Marines before becoming a cop, and had barely shed his rookie status before finding me screaming among the trees. And while I know he still patrols the same town where all those horrible things happen, I have no idea if he's happy or satisfied, or lonely. I never hear from him on holidays, never once got a Christmas card. 9 years earlier, at my father's funeral, he sat in the back row and slipped out of the church before I could even thank him for coming. The closest he gets to showing affection is on my birthday when he sends the same text, another year you almost didn't get. Live it. Jeff will come around, Coop says, again bending the conversation to his will. It'll happen at Christmas, I bet. Guys like to propose then. He takes a gulp of coffee. I sip my tea and blink, keeping my eyes shut an extra beat, hoping the darkness will allow me to feel the Xanax taking hold. Instead, I'm more anxious than when I walked in. I open my eyes to see a well-dressed woman entering the cafe with a chubby, equally well-dressed toddler. An au pair, probably. Most women under 30 in this neighborhood are. On warm, sunny days, they jam the sidewalks, a parade of interchangeable girls fresh out of college, armed with little lit degrees and student loans. The only reason this one catches my attention is because we look alike. Fresh face and well-scrubbed, blonde hair reined in by a ponytail, neither too thin nor too plump, the product of hearty, milk-fed Midwestern stock. That could have been me in a different life, one without pine cottage and blood in a dress that changed colors like in some horrible dream. That's something else I think about every time Coop and I meet. He thought my dress was red. He'd whispered it to the dispatcher when he called for backup. It's on both the police transcript, which I've read multiple times, and the dispatch recording, which I managed to listen to only once. Someone's running through the trees, Caucasian female again. She's wearing a red dress, and she's screaming. I was running through the trees, galloping really, kicking up leaves numb to the pain coursing through my entire body, and although all I could hear was my heartbeat in my ears, I was indeed screaming. The only thing Coop got wrong was the color of my dress. It had, until an hour earlier, been white. Some of the blood was mine, the rest belonged to the others. Janelle, mostly from when I held her moments before I got hurt. I'll never forget the look on Coop's face when he realized his mistake, that slight widening of the eyes, the oblong shape of his mouth as he tried to keep it from dropping open, the startled huffing sound he made, 2-part shock, 1-part pity. It's one of the few things I actually can remember. My experience at Pine Cottage is broken into two distinct halves. There's the beginning, fraught with fear and confusion, in which Janelle lurched out of the woods, not yet dead, but well on her way. Then there's the end, in which Coop found me in my red, not red dress. Everything between those 2 points remains a blank in my memory, an hour more or less, entirely wiped clean. Dissociative amnesia is the official diagnosis, more commonly known as repressed memory syndrome. Basically, what I witnessed was too horrific for my fragile mind to hold on to, so I mentally cut it out, a self-performed lobotomy. That didn't stop people from begging me to remember what happened. Well-meaning family, misguided friends, psychiatrists with visions of published case studies dancing in their heads. Think, they all told me. Really think about what happened. As if that would make any difference. As if my being able to recall every blood-speckled detail could somehow bring the rest of my friends back to life. Still, I tried therapy, hypnosis, even a ridiculous sense memory game in which a frizzy-haired specialist held sensitive paper strips to my blindfolded face, asking how each one made me feel. Nothing worked. In my mind, that hour is a blackboard completely erased. There's nothing left but dust. I understand the urge for more information, that longing for details, but in this case, I'm fine without them. I know what happened at Pine Cottage. I know I don't need to remember exactly how it happened, because here's the thing about details. They can be a distraction. Add too many and it obscures the brutal truth about a situation. They become the gaudy necklace that hides a trichotomy scar. I make no attempt to disguise my scars. I just pretend they don't exist. The pretending continues in the cafe as if my acting like Coop isn't about to lob a bad news grenade into my lap will actually keep it from happening. Are you in the city on business? If you're staying longer, Jeff and I would love to take you to dinner. All 3 of us seem to like that Italian place we went to last year. Coop looks at me across the table. His eyes are the lightest shade of blue I've ever seen, lighter even than the pill currently dissolving into my central nervous system. But they are not a soothing blue. There's an intensity to his eyes that always makes me look away, even though I want to peer deeper, as if that alone can make clear the thoughts hiding just behind them. They are a ferocious blue, the kind of eyes that you want in the person protecting you. I think you know why I'm here. I honestly don't. I have some bad news. It hasn't reached the press yet, but it will very soon. Him. That's my first thought. This has something to do with him. Even though I watched him die, my brain sprints to that inevitable, inconceivable realm where he survived Coop's bullets, escaped, hid for years, and is now emerging with the intent of finding me and finishing what he started. He's alive. A lump of anxiety fills my stomach, heavy and unwieldy. It feels like a basketball-sized tumor has formed there. I'm struck by the sudden urge to pee. It's not that, Coop says, easily knowing exactly what I'm thinking. He's gone, Quincy. We both know that. Well, nice to hear. It does nothing to put me at ease. I've balled my hands in a fist, pressed knuckle down atop the table. Please just tell me what's wrong. It's Lisa Milner. What about her? She's dead, Quincy. The news sucks the air out of my chest. I think I gasp. I'm not sure because I'm too distracted by the watery echo of her voice in my memory. I want to help you, Quincy. I want to teach you how to be a final girl. and I had let her, at least for a little while. I assumed she knew best. Now she's gone. Now there are only two of us. Definitely something to read. 14 minutes left. Okay, awesome, great, wonderful, fan-freaking-tastic. I guess I'll be able to get through Submission by L.K. Shaw really quickly. It's only a couple pages for the chapter. But this is so irritating that I have 13 minutes left now. By the way, this is copyright 2019. Okay. Alright. You can do this, I muttered to myself while I peeped out my car windshield with a deep exhale. I wiped my sweaty palms on my pant leg and tried to calm the butterflies in my belly. I could feel my heart beating in my ears. I'd been sitting here for 30 minutes. I looked down at the ridiculous container of store-bought potato salad. It was probably getting warm and gross. I caught movement out of my periphery, just a couple walking to their car. I didn't know what I hoped to see from my parking space way in the back. The longer I sat there, though, the greater the urge was to leave. But damn it, I'd come this far. What could it hurt to mingle a little? I mean, these were just normal people, right? Kinky people, but still totally normal. Except for me. I was as vanilla as they came, or was I? That's what I was here to find out. Now or never. With that, I quickly grabbed the stupid plastic tub and exited my car before I changed my mind. With a determined stride, I made my way across the parking lot and up the sidewalk toward the shelter house. My steps stuttered briefly when heads turned at my entrance. I gave an awkward smile and set my offering in an empty space between a tin pan of burnt hot dogs and a mostly empty baking dish of what looked like macaroni and cheese. When I turned back around, no one was paying me any attention. Trying to remain inconspicuous, I stepped off to the side to stand against the wall, observing those sitting at the picnic tables scattered around. Well, who do we have here? Oh my god, stop. Sorry, my phone always goes off when I'm recording. A deep, gravelly voice at my right drew my attention. My breath hitched and my body heated when I spotted the sexiest man I'd ever laid eyes on. I'd always been a sucker for a man with salt and pepper hair. Damn, he filled out that navy t-shirt nicely. My eyes traveled his full length before returning to his face. I flushed at the amused half smile he wore at my per usual. It took me a moment to remember he'd asked me a question. Penny, I stuttered, almost breathless as the heat in my face intensified. I don't remember blushing this much before in my life. Fake it till you make it, was my mantra. I stood a little taller and attempted to gain the confidence I typically displayed with chauvinistic surgeons. I'm Marcus. His secret smile remained as he reached out to shake my hand. When I placed mine in his, he squeezed it firmly, and I thought I felt his thumb gently caressed mine, but he pulled away before I could be sure. Nice to meet you. The words came out a little shaky. So what brings you out to play with us today? His voice dropped suggestively. Maintaining my barely there confidence, I answered his question. I'm curious about domination and submission. I figured this was the best place to gain some knowledge. Oh, knowledge about what? Marcus asked, showing true interest. Everything. I wanted to know what it felt like to give up control, to just feel and not have to think, to be dominated, to have someone fulfill needs I didn't even know I had. I wanted to find my happily ever after, damn it. Sadly, I didn't know how to express any of this. I shrugged my shoulders. Whatever someone will teach me. Sweetness. I'd be happy to teach you anything you want to know. In the meantime, why don't I introduce you to some friends of mine? With a hand across my lower back, startling me with the sparks of electricity that flowed through my extremities, Marcus led me over to a group of women. Ladies, I'd like to introduce you to Penny. This is her first munch. She's here getting the lay of the land, so to speak. I have no doubt you'll make her feel welcome. There was an undercurrent of command in his tone. I sat on the bench and Marcus moved away. The back of my neck tingled like I was still being watched, but I ignored the sensation. Hi, I'm Bridget. My eyes landed on a gorgeous redhead with chocolate-colored eyes and a bright, welcoming smile that seemed genuine. She looked about my age. She continued introducing the rest of the group while she pointed at each woman who waved when she spoke their name. That's Delilah, Jackie, and Priscilla, but we call her Pris. Nice to meet you. So, I assume you're a sub? I'm not really sure. She laughed. Well, if you're not, then Marcus there is going to be sadly disappointed. My face heated. He hasn't taken his eyes off you since the moment you sat down. This came from Delilah. I'm sure he's just making sure everyone is having a good time. I try brushing off their words. They all continue to stare at me in a placating way. Bridget spoke up. If you say so. I quickly changed the topic. So are there munches held very often? Thankfully, they let the previous topic go. We have a munch at the local queue on the first Friday of every month. The local queue? I asked Pris, I think her name was. It's a billiards club over on Hamilton Street. You should totally come next week. We continued talking for the next hour or so. I learned so much listening to them talk about their lifestyle. It was fascinating. Soon, though, the potluck was winding down and I needed to get going. Thank you all for making me feel welcome. I debated getting out of my car for over 30 minutes, and I'm so glad I did. This was fun. I'm definitely going to come on Friday. Bridget stood when I did, and I was surprised when she pulled me into a hug. It was so nice to meet you. I really do hope you'll come this weekend. We have so much fun, and there are a ton of people I can introduce you to. We're an open and accepting group. Let me give you my phone number. If you ever have any questions about anything or just want someone to talk to, give me a call. We exchanged phone numbers, and I waved goodbye to everyone. I hadn't made it 5 feet before a sinful voice stopped me. Have you discovered any deep, dark secrets yet? Marcus asked. Yours or mine? I slowly turned to face him. Marcus stepped closer and closer, edging me backward until I was flush with the wall behind me, the wall where this day began. He stopped just short of touching me, and said he leaned down, his warm breath caressing my ear. Why, yours, of course. I'm curious to know what depraved secrets you keep buried that you wish someone like me would discover. In fact, I think I would enjoy that immensely. Discovering your secrets, that is. Secrets I'm going to bet involve all the scandalous things you've fantasized about. A man biting your hands above your head while he feasts on your sweet, succulent cunt. I whimpered at the picture he painted and my knees almost gave out. He was right. I did have those fantasies. I had to brace myself against the cement at my back. He continued when he sensed my arousal. You want to be harder than you've ever been before. You're spanked. You want to come like you've never come before. Every scene flashed through my mind, and God, did I want it. I wanted everything he described. It terrified me, this ease, ecstasy flowing through me. I didn't even know this man, but I had a feeling that if given the chance, he'd discover all my secrets. Overwhelmed by the onslaught, I gasped, I have to go. Wow, that's definitely a keeper. I totally forgot to do the synopsis, but I think you kind of get the gist of it. It's a kink fest. But with that being said, I literally have 8 minutes, and I still have to save this before it disappears. So I hope that you guys enjoy this. I'm so sorry. I hope that you enjoyed the hour with me, though, and let me know. Would you keep all 3 of these books as well? I really want to know. So let me know, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!